Hello, everyone. My name is Chris. I am with Divine Mercy University. And as people join, feel free to check your settings and you can chat, say where you're from. That chat bar and the Q&A bar should be open throughout the presentation. And it's more of a Q&A session this evening. So there's not a set time on this webinar. But if there's any questions that you may have, please ask them anonymously, or feel free to mention your name if you want. But I will definitely respect privacy and I'll go through as many questions as possible. I'm on this slide this evening. So like I said, it's more of a Q&A session. Any questions that you may have regarding the spiritual direction certificate. But here's just testimonials, and we have our webinars on a bi-weekly basis, sometimes even a weekly basis. They were originally monthly, but we're trying to get this content out to you all for free. Divine Mercy University has a YouTube channel, and we upload these webinars. They are posted on our YouTube page, and I believe our other social media pages, other platforms. But feel free to just kind of read these testimonials, and these are students, and I believe maybe even alumni. Lots of students to keep track of. But just to start this evening, my name is Chris. I am the SDC Admissions Advisor, and the Spiritual Direction Certificate, it is a 2-year program. It's almost entirely online. I say almost because Divine Mercy University is located in Sterling, Virginia. And with the 2-year SDC program, there are two instances in the entire program that you come to campus in Sterling. Besides those 2 residencies, the program is entirely online. So that's why I say almost. That's worth noting, especially if you're in a different time zone, different state, different country even. This program is doable. It's in asynchronous format. So it gives you flexibility to do your coursework, to submit your assignments entirely online. And the 2 residencies we do have on campus, it's so fruitful. You meet professors in person, classmates in person, and so forth. And yes, here we are. So who can apply to this program? That is a very, that's the first question we'll cover. Anyone, essentially. You do not have to be Catholic to apply to the program. That's kind of a sub question based off this one. We are an authentically Catholic school. That's worth noting. So as you go through the 6 courses, as you go through the 2 residencies, you are looking at everything through the Catholic Christian lens, through the perspective in the Catholic Christian spiritual tradition. And our program does honor that. Our university honors that. And that's in our DNA. That being said, as long as you know that's our perspective, and as you go through the program, you do not have to be Catholic. That is a common question as an admissions advisor. The program is designed for those who desire to help others, to spiritually develop, to help in your walk, in your relationship with God, with Christ. Another common question as an admissions advisor is course cost. So if you see here on this PowerPoint that you see the information there, $750 per course. Each residency is $1,000. Those 2 residencies that I mentioned, each residency fee, that $1,000, that includes lodging and food. Each residency is 4 days in length. So it's a long weekend. There's some flexibility there, though, because the residency is not a week long. It's not 2 weeks long. If you do research of other programs, sometimes you see that spiritual direction residencies can be at least a week, if not longer. So it's worth noting that the course costs there, we try to make it financially feasible. If you do $750 times that by 6 because of the 6 courses, that takes you to $4,500. And if you add each residency, that takes you to $5,500, then $6,500. So the entire 2-year program is $6,500 you pay as you go. That is worth noting. You pay as you go. No financial aid for the certificate, but again, how the course, how the program is segmented, how it's kind of split up, one course per semester, paying as you go. It is doable. There's also tuition reduction opportunities. 10% tuition discount. That is the reduction in itself. If you are part of a Catholic organization, entity, diocese, parish, we do have agreements or memorandums of understanding, MOUs for short, with certain entities. And let's say you're in a diocese that does not have, or a parish for that matter, who doesn't have an MOU or a memorandum of understanding with our university. You can always call me, email me, and we can talk about how we can kind of reach an agreement and sign an MOU with your respective group. A 10% tuition discount, that's on the course cost. In that instance, each course becomes $675. So that lowers your tuition a little bit. But because each semester it is one course, I think that is doable. Other spiritual direction programs, I've seen 2 courses per semester, sometimes even 3. So we try to space it out within the 2 years for flexibility, academic flexibility and financial flexibility. And keep in mind, this will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you're just coming in, this will be up probably next week. And yes, feel free to ask questions tonight. Another question is, a common question: how many hours per week should you set aside for coursework? So 6 to 9 or 7 to 10 hours per week. That's kind of the numbers that we give. That's the average. It depends partly or even mainly how you are as a learner. I'm a very fast reader. So 6 to 9 hours of work per week could be more like 5 hours for me. I fly through content. That's just how my brain is. If you're more methodical in your approach, that's 6 to 9 hours, 7 to 10 hours. That could become 11 to 12 hours per week. Again, these are minor differences, but it's something to keep in mind. For SDC 100, we have an upcoming semester, summer 2022. SDC 100, I was actually speaking with one of the professors today. And per week, each course is 8 weeks in length. Per week, it's about 100 pages of reading per week. And that sounds like a lot, but because each course is 8 weeks in length, you're able to kind of, it is intensive, but after those 8 weeks, you're able to recharge. You have an 8-week break typically, and then your second class starts. And then after those 8 weeks, your second class finishes, and then there's another break. So that's something to keep in mind. The SDC program is condensed a little bit. Each course is 8 weeks as opposed to 12 or 16 weeks. There is gaps between semesters. And absolutely, Michael, yes. Total tuition cost, the entire cost being $6,500, that's without the potential tuition reduction. And it is pay as you go. There's no lump sum. Lots of times people think, oh, by me signing my enrollment agreement, after you go through the admissions process, I'm signing my enrollment agreement. Therefore, there has to be some lump sum or down payment. Not at all. It is pay as you go. So if you started in May, class begins Wednesday, May 18th, your first payment would be $750. And yes, that is a question. So I'm seeing some questions coming in. DMU does take credit card. I believe debit card, absolutely. I believe you can put a payment on the credit card. I don't see why not. And I could always, the next slide has my contact information. So feel free to shoot me an email with your question and I can always reply with the answer. Apple Pay, that's another good question. In the next slide, if you want to email me these questions, just so I have a digital copy, and then I can reply right back when I find out. Essentially, your invoice comes 2 days before classes start. So our upcoming semester is summer on Wednesday, May 18th. That's SDC 100. Once you go through the admissions process and after you sign your enrollment agreement, you should receive an invoice email from student accounts, and that usually comes 2 days before. So Monday, that would be May 16th. Yes, you'll get that email, and that will have your $750 balance. You have 10 calendar days to make that balance zero. So that is the protocol or the process for specifically for the financial SDC portion. Yes. So speaking of summer semester, the application deadline is Wednesday, May 4th. That is 2 weeks before class begins. Remember, it's one course per semester. So Wednesday, May 18th, that's just SDC 100. You do need a spiritual director. That is a prerequisite for starting the program. So if you're thinking about applying, as long as you have a spiritual director, by all means, you can start Wednesday, May 18th. And that's after you go through the admissions process. If you're looking for a spiritual director or currently do not have one, fall 2022 might be a better option. And class for fall begins Wednesday, August 17th. And I think I'm correct here. I don't want to mix up these dates. So if you apply for the fall, I would say start looking for a spiritual director right away. We do have some resources for that. divinemercy.edu is our website. And then if you go to alumni, near the top, if you click alumni, and then you can get to the SDC or click the certificate portion. This is after you click alumni. The list of names you see, I believe there's 17. Those are spiritual directors. That is alumni of the program who are willing to meet with directees. So that's extremely useful if you don't have a spiritual director. Sometimes it is daunting. Where do I find one? And I always recommend starting local at your parish. It never hurts to ask a priest, to ask a deacon, to ask a fellow layperson, a friend, to ask a sister, anyone else that comes to mind. It can be daunting, but don't overthink it. I always think starting local, starting small at your parish. That's the most direct way. That is my work number. That number there accepts text as well. That is another common question. Chris, how can I get in touch with you? But email, you can email me questions, especially the questions that came in regarding Apple Pay, regarding credit card. You could also call me. Of course, calling me, leave me a voicemail, and I can get back to you. But divinemercy.edu, that is the home page. And then from there, clicking academics and then spiritual direction certificate. That's how you get to the following link right there. But yes, looking for a spiritual director, clicking alumni at the top of the page. That is key. Definitely if you just want to start your search and you're doing some research, how do I find a spiritual director? Right now, I can take questions. So I'll hang around for another minute or two. But as long as the questions come in, I can answer them. But this is specifically a Q&A tonight. But yes, my contact information, make sure my last name is Italian. So if you're sending me an email, just spelling that correctly, that goes a long way so I can receive that. And yes, and if there are no questions, that's not a problem at all. If you want to ask a more direct question, or if you just want to speak with me, calling me tomorrow would be great. And yes, as I say that, we have a question. I believe the question is there any room for summer 2022? So I can kind of piggyback off this question. We typically have 2 cohorts, and each cohort is 15 students each. We have 2 professors for SDC 100. Currently, there is room for summer 2022. Okay, so I see. Is there an opportunity for specialization in young adults? This is a ministry, spiritual direction. So adolescents, no. But young adults, yes. So 17 and under, this program does not prepare you for giving spiritual direction to minors. 18 and older would be the age range that you're giving spiritual direction. We actually do have some applicants and students in the program that are very much focused on young adults, especially Catholic campus ministry on college campuses. And yes, and with counseling, we have another question or another statement that kind of plays into it. Counseling, we do have a Master of Science in Counseling. With the Spiritual Direction program, the certificate, it does prepare you. The 2-year program does give you, I would call it micro skills with counseling. So it's not going to prepare you for licensure by any means. That's not what the certificate is designed to do. But counseling does come up, especially for, and I forget what course or what class, class, but how you discern between, do I send, I have a directee and I'm providing spiritual direction. This is a ministry. When do I know? How do I discern? Maybe to nudge them or refer them to counseling or therapy. So that is something, especially with our residencies, that comes up. That's a common question. I'm giving spiritual direction. This is becoming personal. For example, if I'm a spiritual director, how do I discern in thinking, okay, now it's time to refer you to a Catholic counselor or to a faith-based counselor? That's a very good statement / question. But the young adult ministry, especially the last couple of semesters, it's been it's becoming more popular. I mean, Catholic campus ministry's always been there, but now we're seeing priests, sisters, lay people. They want this certificate to specifically, spiritually direct young adults. Catholic colleges, even public colleges, all different types of colleges. It's becoming more secular, and it's especially unfortunate on Catholic campuses. But this is something we can kind of combat it in a charitable way. But this is all very good, and I think the young adult ministry, it's more important than ever. And yes, we have another. So we have another question here, or statement, and I'm going to read this. As a lifelong teacher of adults and youth, I can take my training geared for 18 plus year olds and apply it in an age appropriate manner to the young high school and college students. This is where my interest is. Absolutely. Now with the high school students, just again, they're 17 and under. So that is kind of a third party item. Especially, there's Bible studies at school, especially if it's a Catholic high school. But our program, it is tailored to those, wanting to give spiritual direction to adults, 18 and older. I'm sure if there's a 17-year-old high school student and a 19-year-old sophomore in college, there's some spillover with regards to how similar they are in age. But this program, it does prepare you solely for giving spiritual direction to those who are 18 and older. But yes, 17 and 19, that's very close, if you will, in age. Very good questions, very good kind of statements. But yes, there is, going back to a previous question, there is room. Summer cohort, we still have room. 15 students in each cohort. And Wednesday, May 4th, that is the application deadline. If there are no other questions, I am available. Tomorrow would be a great day. Tomorrow's Wednesday. Happy Easter, by the way, to those who are watching. And I will stay on for another minute. Okay. So how many available slots do we have for summer 2022? And another question related to this. Specifically, I don't. There are some privacy concerns. And we have DMU would like to answer this question live. I'm going to leave that be. For that answer, who asked me that question, how many available cohort slots? I would call me just so I don't want to give out false information. This number is always kind of changing. I definitely want to be transparent with the number of cohort spots that we have. But yes, calling me would be best for me to answer that directly. And we could have a conversation as well if the summer start is a good fit for you. And okay. So regarding the MSP, this is another great question. The Master of Science in Psychology. That is a degree program. The SDC program is a non-degree program, certificate of completion. Nonetheless, the certificate, you can definitely put it on your resume. The MSP degree, that program, that is a degree program. It is entirely online. I am not an expert regarding the Master of Science in Psychology. My colleague, Greg Shapiro, he's the admissions advisor for the MSP program. It is a degree program, like I said. And I can give you his email address. And I believe, I'll spell it out right now. It's Greg Shapiro. His email address is gshapero@divinemercy.edu. So shoot him an email. Greg is very responsive, and he can give you some specifics on the MSP. It is entirely online. The residencies for the Master of Science in Psychology are online. So we have a lot of international students who can't travel to campus physically. Hence, that's why the MSP degree is very popular. It's definitely a different angle. Of course, it's in the Catholic Christian tradition. It's not a certificate. It's more intensive because it's a master's degree. But Greg, if you email Greg, gshapiro@divinemercy.edu, and that is Shapiro with an E. He would love to speak with you. He will reply to your email promptly. And let's see. You might. Yes. And yeah, happy Easter to everyone. And there is the email address right there. One of my colleagues just posted that. Thank you. Okay, in spring 2023, that start, yes, Wednesday, January 11th. I think that's when spring 2023 starts. Wednesday, January 11th. I believe January 11th is a Wednesday. So don't quote me on that. I am 99% sure. Spring's also a great time to start. There is rolling admissions. So that is key. Just remember. And if you know someone, so let's say you don't have a spiritual director, but you know someone who is similarly qualified, but they do have a spiritual director, feel free to mention this program to them. Word of mouth is so important. It never goes out of style. I think word of mouth is probably the most important thing still. We do have all this technology, which is very useful. It can be useful. But I think word of mouth, especially just referring those. So if you know someone who's one step just ahead of you, and like maybe they could do summer, you can do fall, that's always great to mention. So the master's course, the spiritual, there's another question here. The spiritual direction certificate, that equips you the best for spiritual direction. The Master of Science in Psychology, Greg knows more about this, but the MSP does not focus on spiritual direction. So if you're looking solely at the ministry, then the SDC, the certificate, is the program for you. But the MSP, now that we are Divine Mercy University, we're Catholic, so you're definitely going to get some elements within the Master of Science in Psychology program, but specifically spiritual direction, you're in the right place. But yes, Greg, he's my colleague. He specifically focuses on that. We also have a Master of Science in Counseling. That's within the School of Counseling. The MSP is within the Institute for the Psychological Sciences. At Divine Mercy University, this is also a common question. There are two schools within the university. The School of Counseling, that's where MSC is. And then we have the Institute for the Psychological Sciences. That's where MSP is located, and the doctorate in clinical psychology. It is possible to skip skip a course and take it the following semester. But the word skip, there are leave of absences. So those are, you have three, a student has 3 LOAs or 3 leave of absences, but it wouldn't be to skip a course or let's say I was interested in the program and I wanted to go to the Bahamas for a month during the semester for a vacation. I would not be granted a LOA, a leave of absence. If there, God forbid, a death in the family, or maybe there's some financial hardship, you could fill out an LOA, and then yes, you would be able to skip or pause that course and then take it the following semester. Great question. It totally makes sense. But the LOAs are supposed to be used in extraordinary circumstances. Great. And here's a comment. Somebody's going to be readying their application for the summer. That's great. I always say, if you're very set after you've prayed about it, discern this, doesn't hurt to pull the trigger, especially after, thoughtful prayer and discerning this. Nobody's pressuring you, but I always say, when the Holy Spirit tells you. So that's great. I'm very, very excited for those who are writing their applications. And there is a small $25 application fee. It's a small fee. I believe other programs, the application fee is $55. The SDC, we do things a little bit differently. We're just a more streamlined program. I don't need transcripts. Within the application itself, you're able to put in your college history, but I don't request them. My program does not demand transcripts, official transcripts from colleges. So it's just more streamlined. So that's great that you're writing your application. I'm always on the lookout for the apps. And when someone successfully applies, I am notified. And I believe that's it. Again, my contact information is here. Happy Easter, everyone. Tomorrow was Wednesday. It's a great day. And yes. Last question at the 11th hour. Great. Could you explain what an MOU is? Yes. An MOU stands for a Memorandum of Understanding. For example, we have Divine Mercy University. We have an MOU with the Diocese of Austin, Texas. So we have signed an agreement with them. Anyone who lives in the Diocese of Austin, if you're a parishioner there, you would apply. Within the application, there's the MOU section. The question says, do you have an MOU affiliation with us within the application? So you click that drop-down arrow, you would select Diocese of Austin if you live there. After you go through the admissions process, all I need to solidify that 10% tuition reduction is a letter of good standing from someone in the Diocese of Austin. That could be a priest. Your parish priest, and it would have to be an official letter, and the letter would say, so and so, Chris Garofalo lives within the Diocese of Austin, and he is in good standing with the Catholic Church. This wouldn't have to be the bishop of the diocese; it could be your parish priest. So that's essentially how it works. The letter of good standing. Once you go through the admissions process, I always send out an email with the specific instructions regarding this letter of good standing. But yes, if you're in a diocese that doesn't have an MOU, when we talk on the phone, and we could always talk about how we can try to arrange a meeting or some sort of email communication between someone in the diocese and Divine Mercy University. But yes, within the application, there is a long list of Catholic entities, groups, organizations, etc., that we already have MOUs with. So it never hurts to click the application, and sometimes it's fun to see if you're in a diocese. Diocese of Austin, Diocese of Calgary in Canada, we have an MOU with them. The Diocese of Yakima, Washington State. I don't know if I'm saying that right, Yakima or Yakima, but we do have an MOU with them. But yes, great question. It stands for Memorandum of Understanding. And you wouldn't, like I said, you don't have to go all the way to the bishop for a letter of good standing. It would just have to be somebody, probably it's usually a priest, who says they're in good standing with the church. So I hope I've answered these as thoroughly as possible. It's a lot of information, but it's but it's very streamlined. And if you want any more questions or more clarity, my contact information is here. Thank you all so much. Happy Easter, and hopefully this webinar will be uploaded by next week, sometime next week. Thank you again. God bless.